Hello lovelies, and welcome to another episode of Squeaky's Cauldron. I am, as always, your host, Sarah Evergreen. Thank you for joining me. Today is the last episode in the series on narcissists and how to navigate narcissism using magic. If you haven't already, please check out the previous episodes. The first episode is about narcissism and red flags, things that you can look out for, check into, see if you are dealing with a narcissist. And the second episode gives you a few spells to use to help build you up in a way that will prevent narcissists from having anything to do with you. This episode is focused on magic that you can do to disentangle yourself from a relationship with a narcissist if you find that you're already starting to be enmeshed with one or feel like you need to get some distance from a specific person. These are good spells whether you're dealing with a narcissist or just someone in general who you need to get some space from. Of course, the spells to avoid narcissists is going to be your first stop. That's going to lay the groundwork for any magic that you do if you're already entangled with a narcissist. These spells will help you build up your self-confidence, your self-love, your ability to see through any kind of bullshit that you might be navigating. These are foundational. The spells that I'm going to give you today are meant to really build off of that, so they all work together. Before we dive in, I want to mention, of course, I am not a mental health professional. If you find that you need a mental health professional, please do reach out. These episodes are meant to support you on your journey, and that support should be a multi-pronged approach. I believe that magic can be extremely helpful in navigating all sorts of different things that we encounter in this whole human experience, and that magic is not a place to, it's not the be-all and end-all, you know? There are many different ways that we can navigate the human experience, and many different ways that we should. A support network should be multifaceted because we are multifaceted beings. Also, before we move forward, I'd like to encourage you to like, comment, subscribe. If you're enjoying this podcast, please head over to ratethispodcast.com/Squeaky's Cauldron or over to Apple's podcast and leave a review. Would super appreciate that. And reach out too. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can reach me at squeakiescauldron@gmail.com or on Instagram, squeakies_cauldron. I would love to hear from you. Now, the spells that I'm going to be talking about today are spells to disentangle from a narcissist or any other toxic or unhealthy relationship that you are experiencing. They're designed to help create energetic boundaries between you and another person or a situation, to curb unacceptable behavior in another person if those initial energetic boundaries do not serve quite strongly enough. But I want to emphasize that it's still up to you. It's always up to you to take the necessary actions to preserve those boundaries, to establish those boundaries, preserve those boundaries, to nurture self-love, and to create distance. Magic without actions in life it's only half of the picture. The magic is to support you in the actions that you're taking in your life to make your life better. Also, these particular spells are kind of heavy lifters, so take care of yourself before and after. Make sure that you have the space to enter into this kind of work, and that after you perform these spells that you are taking the time to nurture yourself, to reground yourself, to build your energy back up. All of that's very important. They're very simple spells that anyone can do with little or no extra materials. That being said, the spells in this episode are a little bit more involved than the ones in episode 2 of this series. As before, you can replace any of the candles in this spell with white candles. I really like using birthday candles because they burn out fairly quickly. So I find it much easier to be able to sit with the candle and let it burn out completely because it's not such a huge time investment. Tea lights, they burn for hours. Birthday candles give you about 20 to 30 minutes of burn time. Replace any of the herbs that I talk about with rosemary. That's a great catch-all. And replace any of the crystals or stones that I talk about with clear quartz. It's just a really perfect baseline crystal that you can get, and they're very easy to find as well. If you're looking for a quartz crystal, I highly recommend finding points that are as clear as possible, with as few occlusions as you can find. But again, use what you have. And the most important thing is you, your intention, your focus, your power. That's where it all really comes from. Get very clear on your intentions. Understand why you want to perform these particular spells before you do, and figure out the wording that you're going to use in the spells. And make it very clear, make it very pointed. The more focus that you can have, the more clarity that you can have, the stronger these spells are going to end up being. This is across the board. Any kind of magic working that you're doing, your intentions, your clarity, that's really what's going to drive the energy forward. In that same vein, take plenty of time to connect to your inner self and to your source. Whatever your understanding of God is, or the universal unconsciousness, or spirit, or a particular god or goddess that you're working with, make sure that you are giving yourself a lot of space to be there, really connected to that energy. And it's not just the energy in yourself, it's the energy in the earth, the energy in the sky. You want to be able to channel that. And I've got other episodes that touch on that can help you explore that in a deeper way as well. But the universe is there to support you, so let it. The first spell I want to talk about is a Disentangling Sigil. I love Sigil Magic. I think it's super powerful. It's really fun for me. It's also so personal. And I think that is why it's so powerful, is because it's very personal. You have your intention, you draw it up, like you're creating this symbol of magic that then really concentrates your power and your intention. And it's also really simple. Anyone with a pen and a paper can do it. This particular spell, the Disentangling Sigil, is to get the threads of the entanglement that you find yourself in to start unraveling. And for this spell, you'll need a pen and paper, a fireproof bowl, a candle. I recommend black for protection or white for purification. A Saturn Square. This is it's just a 3x3 box that has numbers in it in a particular order. You can Google this. I'll throw this up on the YouTube video and also in the show notes so that you can reference it that way. I like using the Saturn Square because Saturn is a planet of structure and boundaries and can really help you get deep into that, no, this is my territory kind of feeling, which is what we're going for here. It's a planet that has a lot of, I think, fear around it because of that structure element and because it's associated with death and time and a really strong sense of masculine authorship. And I can understand how that can be a little bit off-putting for some, but if you learn to harness the power of Saturn, like, your whole life can just be magnified in terms of intention and in terms of strength. You'll also need an alphanumeric cipher. It's basically a number line 1 through 9 with the alphabet underneath. And again, you can Google this. I'll throw it up on the YouTube video, or I will Again, you can Google this. I'll throw it up on the YouTube video, and I will throw it in the show notes as well. And lastly, you'll need tweezers. I like to use these when I'm burning anything, because then I can just hold the paper in the tweezers and hold it into the flame, and that makes sure it gets all burnt and I don't burn my fingers. Once you've gathered all of your ingredients together, I want you to get centered, cast your circle if that's part of your practice, clean the space, clean your body, whatever you need to really get grounded in the moment and in the space and get connected to your source, get connected to the earth, get connected to your higher power. And once you find yourself really grounded, really centered, and ready to move forward with the spell, the first thing you're going to do is find your intention. It's important to use your own words in this because your words are what's going to carry the power. And your words are what's going to define what the sigil ends up looking like. You'll write your intention down on a piece of paper, cross out any repeating letters. So if there's 2 E's, you're just going to have 1 E left. Cross out any repeating letters until you've got a set of letters there. Then you'll turn to the Alphanumeric Cipher and write down all of the numbers that are associated with each of the letters that you have. So for example, if you have an A, you'll have a number 1. If you have a B, you'll have a number 2, and so on and so forth. From there, cross out any repeating numbers so that you are left with just a handful of numbers. Then on your paper, draw out the Saturn Square. Then, starting with the first number in your sequence, in the square, just draw lines to connect each number. And this will give you your basic sigil. From there, move that sigil onto a blank piece of paper and just play with it for a little bit. Get used to drawing it, see how it feels in your hand. If you want to curve some of the lines, do that. If you want to add any like little dots or little extra lines, any flourishes, move with what feels good. The more personal it feels, the stronger it's going to be. It doesn't have to look like some fancy thing that you see on the internet. When you are satisfied with what your sigil looks like, take a small little bit of paper and draw your sigil on that. At this point, light your candle. And as you are staring into the flame of the candle, hold your sigil in your right hand. The right hand is, of course, the hand that we direct power with. Focus on your intention. Repeat your intention out loud multiple times, summoning up the feeling in your body and in your life of what it will be like when this intention is fulfilled. How will you feel with this entanglement dissolved? How will you feel when you're free of this web that's been wrapped around you? See if you can connect with that on a really deep somatic level, like in your body, in your whole body. How will your mind feel freer? How will you feel differently in your skin? How will you move differently? How will you interact with the world differently? Focus on all of that and send that into the paper. Send that into your sigil. After you've done that for some time, light the paper on fire and let it burn completely in the fireproof bowl. Watch the smoke as it rises off the paper and see that smoke sending your intention up into the universe, going out into the world, and really suffusing your whole life with that intention. From there, just sit with the candle, focusing on your intention, focusing on that feeling in your body, and watch as the candle burns out. Once that's completed, offer your thanks to yourself, to the universe, to any gods or goddesses that you have called into the circle and the space, and then close your circle, clean your space. When you're finished, take the ash and either bury the ash somewhere that you don't live, somewhere far away from you, or offer it to running water. And running water can be as simple as the water in your tap. Like, you don't have to get complicated about this. If you live in an apartment in a city, that's perfectly fine. Just put it down the tap, run the water until all of the ash has gone through the pipes in wherever you live. You're wanting to flush this away from you. You can also literally flush it, like flush it down the toilet. If you do that, I recommend flushing 2 or 3 times just to make sure that it's really like flowing out. If you want to get a little gritty about this, urinate on top of it before you flush it. It'll add that power of your bodily fluids to it, which I'm all about using bodily fluids in magic workings. Like, it really lends a big oomph to the workings, I've found. And then moving forward, and then keep track of how that feels. Look at the different ways that the energy seems to be disentangling. Make notes of it. I think that that's super powerful as documentation. And again, take the actions that are necessary to support the workings on a really physical level. Like, if you have the option to not return that phone call, don't return that phone call. The energy around you, the magic that you've done is supporting that, but you still have these neural pathways and this programming, all of this that needs to be undone. And an important part of that is following through, taking those actions that are necessary. The next spell I want to talk about is a freezer spell. This is good for the curbing unacceptable behavior, getting a situation or a person into a place where it's frozen. This is a great spell to do to curb unacceptable behavior and to freeze out any heated emotions in a relationship so that you can get further clarity. Again, for this spell, you'll need a permanent marker and thick paper or cardstock. You want something ideally that is going to stand up to being in water for some period of time. You'll want a black or white candle, access to a freezer. If you happen to live with a person who is in question here, which is very possible, see if you can get access to someone else's freezer. I think that putting this spell in your freezer, if you're sharing that freezer with the person in question, has the possibility of making things worse if that person happens to find it. That could be counterproductive. So see if you have a friend who will let you use their freezer. You also want a small plastic water bottle, about 3/4 full of water, or an ice cube tray. And lastly, a clear intention as to why you're doing this spell. Why do you want to freeze this energy? Why do you want to freeze this person's negative behavior? Make sure that you're doing this from a grounded place. Now, if you are acting from a place of anger or revenge, you know what? I'm not going to judge you. Like, that's not my place. And I personally don't adhere to the Wiccan read of if you do something, it's going to come back to you 3 times. So that's like not my jam. I do think that acting from a place of integrity is going to A, make your magic more powerful, and B, work more towards improving your life rather than perpetuating internal and external violence. And by violence, I mean anything that goes against positive, loving relationships. So check in with yourself. Do that work. Do that shadow work that you need. Like, it's going to make everything work better. Now, for the spell. First, of course, cleanse, ground, center. Open your circle if that's part of your practice. Light the candle. And then sit. Just sit with your intention for a while. Feel what it'll feel like in your body and in your life if this heated emotion in this relationship is frozen. if this person's unacceptable behavior is frozen. I want to mention here, before we go any further, when I say the unacceptable behavior is frozen, that's not going to mean that the relationship itself is suddenly going to be so much better. The motive for this is not to suddenly have this person be, a healthy, good person to be with. Rather, it's going to help curb the behavior so that you can make those moves away and not be so wrapped up in the crisis mode that being with a narcissist so often perpetuates. So it's not to make this person a better person. It's to help you be able to make better decisions. After you've gathered that energy, write either your names and a short description of the relationship on the piece of paper, or the other person's name and a short description of the behavior that is creating chaos. Hold the paper in your right hand, pushing your intention into it, focusing on what it will feel like again when those emotions are stopped, when the behavior is curbed, how it will feel in your life. Really infuse that paper with that energy. And then sit with this until the candle burns completely out. Then fold up the paper, put it either in the water bottle or the ice cube tray with water, obviously. And then thank whatever spirits you've been working with. Thank yourself for coming into this place. Close your circle. And put the bottle or the ice cube tray into the back corner of whatever freezer that you're going to be using. If you have to use a friend's freezer, I recommend using a water bottle instead of an ice cube tray because it will travel much better. And get it into the freezer as soon as you can so that you can get that, frozen energy really working. And just leave it there. Leave it there for as long as you need to. When you feel like the spell has run its course, you can take that out of the freezer if you feel like you need to, or you can just leave it there in perpetuity. If you do feel the need to dispose of everything, do so much in the way that you've done in other spells, in which you either burn the piece of paper and then dispose of the ash. You can bury the piece of paper somewhere that you don't live, somewhere far away from where you live, just to keep that energy far away from your space. The final spell I want to talk about today is a cord cutting spell. Now, this is something that I recommend you only do if you are absolutely ready to end the relationship. If you are in a mental and physical space where you can make that cut. It's very powerful. The purpose is to sever energetic ties. And this is a heavy hitter. This is a big one. And you can do this with romantic relationships as well as friendships, professional relationships, etc. Anytime that you're ready to just be done with the relationship as it stands. What you will need is a piece of natural string or twine. I like to use hemp cord. You'll need a fireproof base, so essentially a large ceramic plate or platter would be fine, a metal plate. And you'll want either pictures of you and the other person or your name and their name written on two different pieces of paper. Lastly, of course, your intention for the spell. Why do you want them completely out of your life? And are you actually in a place to be willing to follow through with this? Make sure that that's the place that you're in. And if you're not ready for that yet, that's totally fine. Totally fine. Just work with the other spells that I provided until you can get to that place, and then come back to this one. Now the spell itself. Of course, cleanse, ground, center. Get in touch with the space that you're in, the place that you're in your body, in time. Open your circle, if that's part of your practice. And then light your candle and bring to mind your intention. From here, focusing on your intention, roll up each photo or the little pieces of paper that have your names on them and tie them to opposite ends of the twine so that you have a cord with your name or picture on one side and their name or picture on the other end. And from here, holding this in your hands, your name or picture in your left hand, their name or picture in your right hand, because again, the left hand is receptive, so you're bringing yourself closer, and the right hand is active, so you're pushing them away, pushing that out. Envision and feel what will be different when this cord is severed, when this energy is cut, and how it will be when this person is finally out of your life. How it will feel, how you will be different, how you will interact differently. When you feel suffused with this energy, when you feel so full of this realized intention, hold the cord tight and bring it close to the candle flame, but not quite burning yet, just close. And as you're sitting there, staring at the candle, feeling your intention, say these words or similar words 3 times with a great amount of feeling in each repetition. I sever all contracts between these two. I release all bonds through and through. 3 times. And then bring the cord into the candle flame and watch as the cord is severed. Put each piece on either side of the plate or platter that you have in front of you, and then sit with your intention, watching the candle as it burns down, continuing to tap into that feeling of the intention realized. And when you're done, thank any spirits that you've been working with, the energy, yourself, and close your circle. If you can, bury your end of the cord near you, in your house, in your garden, in a plant, a potted plant that you have, and take the other side and place it in running water, something that is flowing away from where you live. If you don't have access to this, what you can do is burn the other half completely, and then take those ashes and again flush them, run them through your plumbing, get rid of them, and then wrap your half in a cloth and either place it under your bed or on your altar or somewhere else that's safe for you. That will move their energy away from you and keep your energy close to you, which is the intention here, is to bring yourself back to yourself and cut off whatever is happening that you need to get rid of. Remember, these spells work great in conjunction with the spells that I provided in the previous episode. Continue building up your energy and practicing your boundaries. These, of course, go hand in hand. The more boundaried we are, the more energy of ourselves that we have access to, because less of it is going out to places that are not useful for us. Also, as I mentioned in the beginning, these spells are part of what should be a multi-pronged approach to this situation or any other troubling situation that you have in your life. All of these things can be extremely helpful in finding new ways to navigate old problems, in being able to understand what a narcissist looks like and how their behavior is so pointedly designed to make you feel crazy or horrible or like you are the villain, which you're not. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Squeaky's Cauldron. Again, please like, rate, and subscribe. Reach out. I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or any topics you'd like me to cover, I'm here for it. Let me know. And next episode, I'm going to be talking about something that makes me a little bit nervous to talk about, but I've found to be, oh my God, next level powerful. Sex magic. how to use sex with or without a partner in your magical practice. All right? And until then, my lovelies, and as always, use your voice.